Hey, what's up guys? Rampedi here. We're back with another episode. Tell me, is Kaizer Chiefs cursed? Let's go.
That's how it goes?
They keep asking about the best when they know it's me.
Okay.
Asking about the rest when they know it's me.
Straight in, I guess.
You know it's me.
Cavin Johnson started his reign as the head coach of Kaizer Chiefs this past weekend against Golden Arrows, a game in which they lost. I have to give a shout out to Mabuti Kanyes as well. He's coaching that side, Golden Arrows, no doubt. And suddenly, when the loss happened, people started questioning, but Kaizer Chiefs, what is wrong at this football club? Are they cursed? You know, did someone put Muti at this club? Are they bewitched? What's going on? They can't win even if they change coaches. And for me, none of that is the answer, guys. None of that is the answer. And for me, it's people mustn't get distracted. They're getting too distracted now, thinking to themselves that the new coach is going to come and is going to change things. I take it back to management. They are the ones that are paying for their sins. And that is what I said over the weekend. I said they're paying for their sins for poor planning, for poor leadership, for poor management. We're dealing with a management here, guys, that promoted Atazwane as head coach. And then the rumors of Nabi started to come in. And they didn't stick with Atazwane. In fact, they demoted him to assistant. Then they hired Mulefenseki, who had no history of winning anything in the PSL. Then after 10 games, they fire him. To make things better, they demote Atazwane to the development, from assistant to development. And then they hire Kavin Johnson and they say, this is what's happening. And we expect these people to lead this club to success? I worry about the environment that they've created. I mean, I look at even the players. They don't have any confidence at all. But you have to ask yourself, every single player that comes to Kaizer Chiefs Football Club, they don't succeed. When was the last player came to Kaizer Chiefs and hit? When? Nurkovic? Yeah. But other than that, who else? The club culture is poor. And when you compare it to even Mamelodi Sundowns, they're not even on the same level. You can see what Jose has come in and done at Orlando Pirates. I know their league positions are great, but they've won trophies. You got to bring in elite guys. And that's the only way Kaizer Chiefs at all departments. Until then, management, enjoy this poor form. We have a big guest today on Playing the Field with Shakes. The only thing I'm going to say is class is in session. Another big guest on Playing the Field with Shakes, decades in football, decades, guys, producing some of the best players we've ever seen in this country, a coach, an analyst, and director of Stars of Africa Football Academy. Coach Farouk Khan, how are you?
Great, Shakes. Can't complain. Just looking forward to the new project we started. It's kept me busy, but I'm enjoying every moment of it.
No, I'm definitely going to ask you about that. That's for sure. But I mean, just for context for people that are watching and even for myself as well. I mean, Coach, how many players have you produced for this country? Are we talking about 500, 1,000, 200?
Not that many, but quite a number of players in different categories. You know, some of them have been players that played for Bafana, others have been in the PSL. There's quite a few. I mean, in fact, I met somebody on the plane yesterday and said to me, Coach, you coached me 25 years ago at Kaizer Chiefs. And I said, oh, he says, I'll never forget what you did. So it's nice when you see people that haven't really made it in football, but have made it big in life, you know, have made it as entrepreneurs, has made it as business people, because my whole philosophy is not just about football. My philosophy is to try and ensure that I pass on skills that will help the individual in life in general, you know, whether it be life skills. We have a big thing on Ubuntu. I am who I am because of you. It's our motto. We want to really make sure that kids, if they don't make it as footballers, they are not lost to their communities and to their families as a whole.
No, man, that's amazing. I mean, I look at even some of the players they're playing in the currently in the DStv Premiership right now as we speak. But whenever I've seen you on TV, you know, you were a great analyst as well. And I sort of asked myself, like, did you ever have ambitions of actually being a head coach, or was it always breeding talent all the time?
Initially, when you start out as a coach, your whole ambition is to coach in the PSL, to coach in the Premiership. And I was no different at the time. But, you know, sometimes we plan and God plans differently. So this road that I've taken or undertaken has simply been something that happened as a consequence of being involved with football firstly, and then obviously having had the pleasure of working both at youth development and in the PSL. I think if you look at the two, I found youth development to be more challenging. I think in the PSL, it's more man management. It's more how you deal with people. It's more how you can bring the best out of a group of professional athletes. So that's more of a psychological thing, more than just setting up drills and teaching players the basis or the basics of football.
And the fact that I have you here, coach, is a perfect opportunity because there's a few questions I wanted to get through with regards to DSTV membership. I will get to your program, that's for sure. I wanted to talk about, seeing that you're talking about the coaching and the technical aspects and all that, inconsistency within the DSTV membership. Why is it that I can expect a level of performance from Kevin De Bruyne every season and Haaland every season, but in the PSL, it's a lot more harder than that? And I say that because Orlando Pirates started really well, and then all of a sudden it's like they're not necessarily keeping the same momentum or performance per se. But it's not just them. I just feel like a lot of teams are inconsistent in that way.
Yeah, there's many factors. I mean, you can't really, put your finger on one of them. There could be a variety of factors because we're dealing with human beings. There's a lot of things that can happen in their lives that can influence their performance. But I think the biggest factor is that we don't have a level of proper youth development in our country. When I talk about proper youth development, it's similar to when you send your child to school on the first day. You as a parent are very excited when you're taking him to school or taking her to school. It's that first day when they come back, you show an interest in what did you do today? What did the teacher say? And you ensure, in most cases, that the teachers are equipped with the proper qualifications. Sorry.
No worries.
Equipped with the proper tools. And by that I'm saying they must have the proper qualifications. They must be youth specialist coaches. I studied in Brazil, and I only realized when I was invited to do a youth course how different qualifications were. Because when I went there the first time in 1992, I did a more advanced coaching course for amateurs and professional players. And when they invited me with FIFA to do a youth coaching course, I thought, how different could it be? Football is football. It's just a different age group that you're dealing with. Only to find that I was so wrong in not taking into account that your pedagogic, your didactic skills were so different. The way you coach a youngster, there's different levels. For example, a 6-year-old, you're coaching completely different to an 18-year-old. So it's what we call age-appropriate training. So at each age, it's like school. What you do when you go to school in grade 1, I don't know what's it called now, but when we went to school, it was grade 1, grade 2, standard 1, standard 2, standard 3, and onwards. So during the different grades, the foundation is laid at primary school level. That is where the problem lies, Shakes. Many of our players are not two-footed players. Many of our players are not taught to scan and to see what is their surroundings. Spatial awareness is non-existent. Most players play while only watching the ball, not looking at where the space exists, not looking where the teammates are, not looking where the opponents are. And when they get the ball, the time is so limited, especially with the modern game, where we're talking about pressing and counter-pressing and not allowing opponents to have space and time. And that is where you see, when players get to the PSL, because of the pressure of space and time, they often make mistakes, technical errors. Finishing is a huge problem, and you can just look at the number of goals we score. It's because that's the area of the game that hasn't been refined.
The way you unpack that is brilliantly put together. And I'm talking from an audience point of view who's watching on the outside. So you're watching this TV and you're saying to yourself, if there's one thing we're guaranteed of is Sundowns will maintain a certain level that stays the same. Then my question remains is, how come they can do it and others can't do it?
Yeah, I think, Sundowns have really done well in as far as ensuring that they have a game model, a philosophy of play, a style of play. You can call it any of those. I think sometimes we use this language, English, to confuse people rather than simplify. So the man in the street, it's best that you speak to him in a football language that he understands. If I talk about counter-pressing, I talk about all the sophisticated terminologies that I would when I speak to a coach. It's different when I speak to an audience. I try my best to make it as easy as possible. So when you look at Sundowns as a whole, the quality of players that they have in their camp has ensured that they are able to play that type of football. The question is, what are the rest of the teams doing to ensure that they are competitive enough to give Sundowns that competition, to ensure that it doesn't become a Sundowns winning the league forever and a day. And to do that, you can't buy success, Shakes. Many teams have tried it. I think currently we see that in the Premiership where Chelsea have bought a number of quality players, but they just can't seem to get that winning formula. Winning formula, you got to build it like the likes of Ferguson did. When he came to United, what he said to Bobby Charlton was, I want to build a team similarly to what I have been doing at Aberdeen. I want to ensure that I build young players to carry that mantle to the top team, and only then will we win silverware. Not everybody is able to acquire the players that Sundowns have, and therefore it makes it imperative that you build a team. I mean, Golden Arrows is a good example. They don't have many big names, but they have promoted a lot of players. Yes, we can argue the fact that it's a honeymoon period for them now, but be that as it may, they have done extremely well. So what I think is happening at the bigger clubs is they're not ensuring that the right type of player is coming through the development ranks. That is on its own a huge challenge, I feel, because once they do that, that player grows up understanding the philosophy, the culture of the team. You know, you could buy a great player, but he won't necessarily be a great player for you as a club. He could do brilliantly. Chivaviro was a wonderful striker when he was playing for Chipa and the other club, but he's not able to do so now. But there's many factors that go into it, and it would take a while for us to break it down and say why certain individual players are not doing as well. But to summarize for you, Shakes, we need to have a program of development that at least produces on an ongoing basis 6 or 7 first team players, and the rest we could look to buy and have the right formula that will complement these young players. So you need to bring in experience quality with the quality youth that you have, like we did when I was with Mushina Tigral, when I was with Ted Dimitru. We made sure that we had the players like Jabush Mashlangu, Tlantla Kubeka, Isaac Mabotsa, Gerald Sibeko, and we were able to ensure that the existing quality players like the Dr. Kumalos, like the Tabo Mokis, like the Cyril Nzamas, like the Fabian McCarthy's, were able to gel as a team. And that was our success. It was not rocket science. We just made sure that we had the right development players coming through. I think there's a big gap between what happens at the DDC and what happens at the Premiership. To be fair, it's not the job of the PSL to produce players at grassroots level, but it is the job of the PSL to ensure that when they have a development program, those players are able to easily adapt to playing in the PSL. And that is where you have to have your best technicians, your best youth coaches, to ensure that the money you're investing is well spent.
Now, I mean, you just rolled out a couple of players that a lot of us fell in love with this football club for. Kaizer Chiefs being the football club and you having to be part of it with the guys from Machine and as well as Ted Dimitri as well. I mean, these were magical players, really, really magical, that came from the development system. And as a fan, the first question you probably want to ask is, then why, if it was working so well, then why fix it? What happened there then? I mean, why all of a sudden, why is Farouk Khan not there anymore producing these talents then, you know?
I think there was a bit of a conflict because I did very well when I was there at Chiefs, and I think the chairman was very much behind. You know, he supported me, he loved what I did, and I think when Ernst Middendorf came and his philosophy and what he did didn't really coincide with what I was all about. And with all due respect, I respect what he did, but it was just not going to work for me to have players like Skarango Bessie and etc. be sidelined simply because there was a feeling that they were overdoing things. That, you know, I always believe as a South African, we have a certain quality of player, and we need to ensure that we encourage and promote those type of players. If you look back at our history, some of our greatest players, the Isnutsulens, the Sheikhs Shaba, Arongo Bessie, the teenage Lalas, were never ever restricted on using their skill. It's like if I go to Brazil now and I suddenly say to them, listen, Neymar dribbles too much. They look at me and they'll say, are you mad? If we stop Neymar from dribbling, then Neymar is not Neymar. I mean, there was a time when you had a player like Zayn Musa, who was a wizard. But at that time, when he came to Chiefs, the coach told him, no, you must play two-touch. Now, you may as well tell that player, listen, retire from football. Zayn is never going to be able to play two-touch because his strength is in dribbling. His strength is in minusing players. I think it's horses for courses. So when that happened, I became a bit distant and I just couldn't work with people that were not of the same mentality. And then with due respect, I moved on.
The big question is, I mean, many people have tweeted it before. I've dreamt about it before in my mind. Would Coach Farouk Khan ever return back to Naturena, or is it now Stars of Africa? That's about it.
Look, you know, as they say, Kosi for life, it's still in my blood. It's still something I want to do, but I can't do it. It's not my call. You know, it's not my call. There has to be a calling for everybody in life. I don't own Kaizer Chiefs. I can't make a calling on behalf of them. But if ever they ask me to assist, and we can accommodate Stars, because Stars has grown in stature. Stars has now got 300 players on a daily basis. Stars has got an academy that's growing now, where we're going to have 160 players on a full-time basis, schooling, education, food, nutrition, as well as what we do on the field of play. But I would like to think that that could be a feeder to a club like Chiefs or whoever else comes calling, where you have a satellite similar to what we have in modern day football. The biggest clubs in the world have feeders all over the world. And what they then do is they get the opportunity to take the best talent there and not having to go outside and look, because they have talent within their structure. They have their own academies, plus they have these satellites, which then can tap into bringing in the right type of talent. I think once you have, you know, all of us are guided in one direction, meaning we all know this is what we need to produce for a club like Chiefs or for a club like Sundowns. The job becomes easier now. Other than that, you're constantly going to be looking for players, and then you're going to bring those same players in, and then there's that adaptation period, and then suddenly we say, but hang on, they bought this good player, why isn't he able to perform? It's because there's a bit of a conflict. His upbringing, his development, his playing style is different to what the current club is all about.
You've spoken about Stars of Africa and what it's doing. You've posted a video about it having a new home, potentially. And you've also said there's a big opportunity with the players when they were posting a picture with Johan Obi Mikel. What's the direction you're trying to go now, Coach Farouk?
What I'm trying to do is I'm working on an 80-20 principle. So what it means is I will give 20 players bursaries to attend this high-performance program. And then I will have 80 players whose parents have aspirations for them to become professionals, who will then pay for that service, because I have to sustain the program. Unfortunately, academies like mine don't get sponsorships, irrespective of how many national team players we develop. I just don't think, as a country, as a government, we support small business enterprises. Enterprises like yourself, like myself, who need that financial injection to grow. And I think if we do that more often, we're going to produce more manpower in as far as players, in as far as expertise in all those different areas. I always remember when I came back the first time from Brazil in '92, I spoke to the executives of SAFA. I said to the president at that time that, listen, why don't we ensure that we use football as a tool for foreign export? In other words, we export players to countries where these players go to countries, earn big salaries, come back, reinvest that money in our country, recycle that, and also then play for our national team. Because the more players we have playing at Arsenal, playing at Man City, playing at United, will ensure that the quality of our national team is so much better. There's no other way. There's no other shortcuts.
And now, my question is that maybe you would know more than me. How come Senegal still be able to maintain the same level and Ivory Coast and Ghana? It's almost like you guaranteed. Is it because they are sending their young players overseas at a very early age than what we're doing?
Yeah, their players get exposed because they don't have the resources in Senegal, in all those countries. What they do is young players then get the opportunity and are scouted. A lot of clubs in Europe have satellites in Senegal, in Ivory Coast, where they have these satellites, and all they do is Those satellites identify the talent, they do the basic training, and then they take them to Europe. And some of them even get citizenship. The ones that come back obviously enrich the likes of Senegal and Ivory Coast and those type of countries. We don't need to do that. We have the resources. We have the infrastructure. What we must understand, Sheikhs, for any country to do well in international football, the first thing we need to do is ensure that we have a grassroots program in place where kids from as young as 6 play daily. I'm not saying are coached in a sophisticated way, where kids do what we did when we were young, play street football. They could do it in a more organized fashion where we have 4v4 areas marked up. Whether it's sand, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be grass, where kids can play 4v4, for example. If you look currently at our local LFA leagues, it's lopsided. You look at the GDL, you have Chiefs, Pirates, Sundowns. The rest are just ordinary teams. So when a kid plays in those leagues, he's not getting the relevant competition. And then the next step, we need to ensure that our national teams are representative of the best. Not go to 4 teams and say, send me your best players, and say that's our national team. We had a team lately that was trying to qualify for the Under-20 World Cup. We failed dismally. We were knocked out by Mozambique. And guess what? 8 of the players were from one club, my former club. It was from them. And we bombed out. Nobody said anything. The media didn't say anything. So it means the next time we're going to do the same thing. We have to use, I mean, you know, if we were knocked out by Ghana or Nigeria, one of the bigger guns, we have players all over the world, I would understand. But we got knocked out with no disrespect intended by Mozambique. That should have been ringing alarm bells. That should have said to us, if this is what our Under-20 is about, how do we expect our Bafana team in 5 or 6 years to do well? If you don't have a youth,
are you saying, folks, that when you highlight the fact that 8 of those players came from your former team, is there still a sense of, would you say it was favoritism, that not every single best player was picked, and it was more favoritism that happened because of the coaching alignments between the youth team and the actual team?
Well, I wouldn't say favoritism, but I would say it was oversight. I want to make it look obviously like I'm not picking on anybody, but it wasn't 100%. The right thing to do. I want to say that whether it is the technical staff or whether it was SAFA that didn't make more players available to the coaches, because maybe those 8 players were the best players the coach could field, but it's not correct, because I can tell you without a doubt that in that particular team, I could have at least given them 3 or 4 top quality players. I'll tell you why I say this. If you look at the players that eventually from the Stars of Africa Academy that made it to Bafana, I talk about names like Tokelo Ranti, never played for Under-17, never played for Under-20, never played for Under-23. First player ever in the history of South African football to score a brace in Nigeria against Nigeria. May Matlangu, never played Under-17, never played Under-20, never played Under-23. Okay. Another player, Ematis Ralani, sensation at 30-odd, he should have played for the national team because he was so talented. It is like saying that Neymar or one of the other great players in Brazil never played for the youth teams. It would be laughable. But Ematis Ralani never played. Sandile Pete never played. Sibusiso Kumalo only played because he had already been signed by Morocco Swallows at 17. And then, obviously, being a Morocco Swallows player in the PSL, he was noted as a player that could play under 20. But what I'm trying to allude to, Sheikhs, is that when you're playing for one of the smaller clubs or academies, you don't get that opportunity. And I don't think that's good for football. I think the teams should be selected on merit. I think the coaches should know what they are doing in as far as preparing their team.
I mean, the last question I have simply for you, what would you like your legacy to be, Coach Farouk, when everything eventually, what would you like your legacy to be?
To have made a difference in the lives of South African youth, to have given them a glimmer of hope when there was complete darkness. And I'm saying this based on players like Mimas Langu, who came as an orphan to Stars, and today is a successful millionaire and a successful person as a whole. The same thing with Tokelo Ranti, the same thing with the likes of Sibusiso Kumalo, Mimas Langu, and many others. I mean, Tefu Mashamati comes to mind, a player that I took on loan from Wits, and when they got promoted, they didn't want him more surplus. Spent 2 years with me, went back to Wits, and became one of the best players at Kaizer Chiefs a few seasons later. For me, that is sufficient reward. I know I don't always get my recompense for players I develop. Players, go to clubs and we lose out as an academy. But as I've always said to my family, what we don't get in financial reward, we get in the blessings. All those parents, all those families, all those communities that benefit from our work, that is the blessings that we get for what we've done. And that's what I would like to be remembered as somebody that made a change in the lives of our South African youth.
I can only tell you right now, Coach, that you've made a change to a lot of players, and there's going to be many more to come. And I really wish you success with what you have coming with the Gospel Stars of Africa. Thank you for everything. Thank you for being a guest. Thank you for engaging me, even on social media when need be. You are an encyclopedia, and I really hope that you write a book one day. I'll be the first one to buy it, no doubt.
Thank you, Shakes. Thanks for having me. And to all the people out there, really, we as a nation can do much better. We just need to start believing in ourselves.
100%. Please take care, Coach.
Thank you, Shakes. All the best. God bless.
Who was up to par and who became our star? But also, who fell short in this game we all love? Let's find out on Moegoe of the Week.
Star of the Week. I've got two this week. I have to tell you, man. The first one being the Springboks. It's pretty obvious. 4 World Cups. Yeah. Second one being Mamelodi Sundowns up against Al Ahly. That performance, they forced Al Ahly to respect them. Sundowns have really come a long way. The Moegoe of the Week, Orlando Pirates Football Club. They play 2 games, they catch up games, and no wins. This club at this current moment is sitting 13th on the log, close to relegation. You guys are really just a cup team, nah? Pathetic. You guys are my Moegoe of the Week.
It's time for Bet of the Week. Get ready to win big by placing the right bets on the right games.
Now, before we get into this week's Bet of the Week, guys, for the third time in a row, I'm telling you, if you're not following my slips, man, you are missing out. This week, Dortmund going up against Hoffenheim. I've gone with Dortmund straight win. Freiburg going up against Paderborn. I've gone with Freiburg to win. Sander Hazen going up against Leverkusen. I've gone with Leverkusen to win. West Ham going up against Arsenal in the Carabao Cup. I've gone with over 1.5. And then Saarbrück going up against Bayern. I've gone with the Bayern straight win. Sassuolo going up against Spezia. I've gone with Sassuolo win. And Anteneza going up against Real Zaragoza. I've gone with Real Zaragoza to win. The odds, 7.81. 7 times my money back. And this time it could be 4 times in a row. If you want to win with me, click on the link below.
Remember to practice responsible betting at betway.co.za.
We've come to the end of the show. Just want to take this time to say thank you guys for joining me. Always a pleasure to have you here. Before you do go, I need one favor. Like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you're notified for future episodes.